Welcome back, folks. This time I'm going to try and go back to the sharing my screen. So let me do that. Okay. Swadharmamapi cha veksha navikampitumārhasi dharmyadhyudyachhreyonyat kshatriyasya na vidyate. We saw this last time and towards the end of the session. And we understood that there is a first and foremost, there is a physical aspect to it where there is this caste system, and we don't want to get into the details of that, but there's the Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudras. And we saw how this arbitrary classification is something that is applicable to our mind as well. So the mind has all these 4 traits. It's an arbitrary classification, but one can easily appreciate where it's coming from. And so let me stop the share here. And so the mind, it will indulge in different kinds of activity, and based on that, it will sometimes perform the activities of one type. The thing that we are working on at this minute, at this moment, is we are trying hard to focus on, to understand mentally. You can call it meditation, or you're just trying to focus on what is this thing, this mysterious thing, or what is it that enlivens me, or some higher spiritual thought, or even in a very practical purpose, you are studying for something and there are number of distractions. And as a now you are taking up, although you are intellectually understanding things, so there is a problem you're trying to understand that makes you the caste of Brahman is dominating at that point. But then there are distractions that come up that want to take you away from what it is that you are doing. That fight, your mind goes into the mode of a Kshatriya. And this verse is relating to that perspective of this battle that all of us are engaged in one way, whether you know it or not, or in one way or another, we are part of it. So Swadharamam apicha veksha navikam pitumarhasi dharmya. This is a dharma yuddha for a Kshatriya to fight that. That is his duty. He needs to fight that. And you should not waver. You should not deviate from this effort of yours, because the pursuit of higher goal is definitely much more than these distractions that are pulling you away from your pursuit. It might be a materialistic pursuit, but given that we are talking about Bhagwad Gita, here we are talking about the spiritual pursuits, and they also have their own categories. But in general, because like we said, we are comparing this Kurukshetra to the mind of an aspirant who is trying to understand the nature of truth, the nature of this consciousness or self that illumines everything that we know and we do about. Okay, let us go to the next verse. Let me share my screen. Yadrichaya chopapannam swargatvaramapavrutam sukhi partha labhante yuddhamidrisham. The fight that this Arjuna is engaged in, or we are engaged in when we are trying to pursue these higher goals. Let me stop the screen share. This fight is like the opening of the doors. You are at the gates of heaven. They will open doors for you, or you are at the open doors to heaven. That is the words. Yadruchaya chopapan. Swarga dwar. Swarga is heaven. Dwara is door. Swarga dwaram apavrutam. So apavrutam is wide open. They are what the doors of heaven will open unto you if you consider this fight that you happen to be in is, he's not using these words, but it's like a good luck thing. You are lucky to understand and recognize that you are in this fight. Just that mere fact is opening up these doors for you. Okay, let's move to the next verse. Let me share my screen. Okay. अथ चेत्त्वमिमं धर्म्यं संग्रामं न करिष्यति ततः स्वधर्मं कीर्तिं च हित्वा पापमवाप्स्यसि. So what generally is understood, it's a very commonsensical thing. What we understand is, if we hurt somebody, if we kill something, then it will incur papa or bad things. If we help somebody, when we keep somebody alive, then it is a good thing. It's a typical thing that, let me stop the screen share, is a typical thing that we can understand. But on the surface of it, although it makes sense, and this is where Bhagwad Gita stands apart from other texts, that things are not black and white. If somebody is good, then doing good to him, helping him is makes sense. But if somebody is not, if somebody is evil, if he's hurting somebody, then it makes sense to overpower this person, to control him, even to eliminate him, to annihilate this. And that is true of all the bad things that are distracting us from our goal. Those will be called as bad things. It could be as naive as you are studying for an exam and your friends are asking you to come and watch a movie for 3 hours. Nothing wrong with the movie, but this act of taking your time away from what you should be focusing on, that is a kind of sin. So what Krishna is telling Arjuna, atha chetvam imam dharm, atha, therefore, chet is if, atha chetvam imam dharma. Am I sharing? No, I'm not sharing. Let me share the screen again. Atha chetvam imam dharmyam. Chet is if. Tvam imam. Tvam is you. Imam is this. Dharmyam. Dharma is the right thing, the principle of righteousness. So what is right? So in this case, it is relative. It's not black and white. Atha chetvam dharmyam sangramam. Sangrama is to fight. Na karishyasi. Na is no, not, do not. Karishyasi, perform. So if you think, Arjuna, that it is your dharma to not fight, your religious text wise that has been said, ahimsa paramo dharma, that means the greatest truth, there is the greatest righteous thing you would do is not to hurt anybody, That is the right. So according to that principle, this is, you might think that fighting is not the dharma. Therefore, fighting is not the righteous thing to do. Atha chetvam imam dharmyam sangramam. So fighting na karishyate. You not, by not fighting, if you think you are doing dharma, atha chetvam imam dharmyam sangramam na karishyate. Tatat swadharmam kirtim cha hitva papamavapsyasi. In fact, by doing this, by not fighting, is what will incur sin in this context. You have to take the right context in your mind, in your frame of thinking. You have to take the context in consideration here. So you not fighting is an incorrect thing to do. And having, so you, there's some other connotation to this, but the basic fact is that you have to fight. Fight is it's kind of a synonym for sacrifice. So you have to give up certain things. You have to give up. They are hindrances towards our attainment of the higher goal. And so you not fighting is not a noble thing. You are you are cheating yourself. You are deluding yourself. You're you're finding lame excuses in order to not fight, and this in fact is not good for you. Okay, let me go to the next verse. Now the verses that follow after this, there are a series of verses. They are all pointing out the same thing, that the what what is going to happen if Arjuna is not going to fight, the bad things that are going to take place, or things not in his favor that are going to. So it's like, for a while Krishna has been explaining to Arjuna the benefits of this, why he needs to fight. And these 5 or 6 verses that are going to follow, he's explaining or trying to trying to make Arjuna understand why it is why what is going to happen if he is not going to fight. And so you will see certain verses here where what will the people around you think and all that, and then we'll put it into the right context. So let me share the screen again. Akirtim chape bhutani kathayishyanti te vyayam sambhavitasya cha kirtihi maranadatirichyate. Akirti. Akirti is infamy. So you are such a brave warrior, and if you don't fight, then obviously you are going to not be as popular as you used to be. There'll be infamy associated with it. Akirtim chapi. Akirtim cha is also. Api is over and above. Akirtim chapi bhutani. Bhutani is people. Kathaishanti. Kathaishanti is people they will not consider you that you are great, or they will think as if you used to be great. You are not that great anymore. Akirtim chapi bhutani kathayishyanti te vyayam sambhavitasya cha kirtihi. So for a man of your stature, sambhavitasya cha kirtihi, Maranatati richate. This kind of impression that people are going to get off of you by you not participating in the fight is almost like death. You are a warrior, and if a warrior does not fight, then or is looked upon as a warrior who is incapable of fighting, it is almost like death. And one can take this at face value and relate it to a general in the army who has taken command, and he goes to the border where they are going to engage in battle with the enemy, and at that point he turns around and he is unable to command his army to get into fight. So the general consideration is that this commander is brave even at the cost of his life. He will lead his army and he will rather die than accept defeat. But that is exactly what is going to happen here. He is going to actually in the next verse, he says that you are running away from this battle. So this thing where he says, he compares the infamy to death. In the Vedantic texts, where they will analyze and try to explain the nature of this world that we are in, the nature of this body that we all are, the composition of the psyche that is there in the body. This analysis that that the Upanishad has done, they consider that anything that falls short of their ultimate goal, the final truth, this you will find, or we find in several places mentioned that this is death. Living this small petty life, the Upanishad says, is death. And you will see, we see that the reverberations of that tone appearing in several places in the Bhagwad Gita. So this is one of the places where Sri Krishna is telling that you not fighting is as good as death. One might think that you are commanding this army and you accept defeat, you surrender to the enemy. By doing that, you live. There's a saying in English, live to fight another day. So you might think like that okay, you got saved. But in this context, that surrender is nothing but death. The victory, there is only one option, that is to fight. Whether victorious or not, that's a different thing. But the only option is there to fight, because if you don't fight, then if you surrender, that is as good as death. Okay, let's move to the next verse. Bhayad ranaduparatam mansyante tva maharathaha yesham chatvam bahumataha bhutva yasyasi laghavam. So I was, just like I was mentioning earlier, for him to leave this battlefield, to surrender out of fear, Bhaya Ranad Uparatam. Rana is the battlefield. Bhaya is fear. Bhaya Ranad Uparatam Manchante Tva Maharatha. Maharatha is the other commander, other commanders will think that this is like fleeing. You flee from the battle because you are scared. What kind of a warrior are you if you are getting scared of the battle? All this whole life you have been preparing to not indulge, engage in battle. And when the time has come, what kind of a warrior are you? That is how the other generals will say, Maharatha, other generals. Bhayad Rana Bharatam Mansante Tva Maharatha Yesham Chatvam Bahumataha. Bahumata. So Yesham Chatvam Bahumataha Bhutva Yasya Silaghavam. So those people who held you in high regard before Bahumata, you will fall down in their eyes. You will no longer hold that high position that they used to think about you. They will think bad about you. They as an ordinary person, which is that there can be nothing as bad as that from your perspective. So all this is it's for those who have attempted meditation. So even 5 minutes or 10 minutes, the passage of time also, it kind of is a measure of the quality of meditation that one does or gets into. So there is this intense fight that takes place in the mind when you're trying to meditate. And when you simply surrender to these distractions and you come out of your meditation, you get this feeling sometimes that of being defeated. And for some people it lasts for a few minutes, for some people it lasts longer. But that's the kind of feeling he's talking about here. That this person, he comes out of this effort dejected, depressed, defeated. That the intensity of that emotion can be tremendous, this feeling of defeat. And even if you are not victorious, even if you do a stalemate to certain extent in this effort, it actually does give you confidence. And when I say this effort, I mean to say when you are meditating or you are focusing on something, you want to study for some exams, you can lay aside your distractions. That's the stalemate I'm talking about. If you can do at least that much, it is a victory. Okay, let us go to the next verse. So as I said, many of these verses are along the same lines of thought. Avachavadanshya bahun vadishyanti tavahitaha. Avachavadanshya. Vacha is avachavada. I think we should take this together so that it makes more sense that way. It means the people will talk extremely bad things about you. Avachavadanshya bahun vadishyanti. They will say, they will speak. Avachavadanshya. Generally, things that you reserve for you to say when you want to say something not good about something, those kind of phrases people will use. Avachavadanshya bahun vadishyanti tavahitaha. Those enemies or those people who know you or or wishing that you do not succeed, those people, they will make fun of you. They will speak all kinds of bad things about you. Avachya vadansya bahun vadishyanti davahitaha. Nindantastava samarthyam. Samarthya is your strength, your ability, all these things that people have been, or we have heard about you, or people have heard about you, that you are such a great warrior and you have practiced so much, and people are waiting to see how this warrior will fight in the war. This kind of ability that you have, people will shame on you, that kind of a thing. They will speak bad about this ability. Nindantastava samarthyam. Nindantastava samarthyam. Tato dukkhataram nukim. Dukkha is to feel hurt. What can be more hurtful than this? Than people talking bad things about you, the kind of person you are, what kind of the the feeling that you will get, the remorse that you will feel upon listening to what people are talking about you, that will be very, very painful for you, Arjuna. If you say he's giving all kinds of, Krishna is telling Arjuna the repercussions of his decision of not fighting. Okay, let's get to the next verse. Hato va prapsasi swargam chitva va bhokshase mahim tasmad uttishta kaunteya yuddhaya krita nishchayaha. Hata is to die, to kill, to getting killed. Hato va prapsasi swargam. So, and we have to be careful when looking at this verse and not fall a trap to misinterpretation. But basically, what is being said is that even if you get killed in this fight for righteousness, in this righteous fight, or in this righteous battle, war, if you get killed, then you will achieve heaven. If you get killed in this battle, you will achieve heaven. Hato va prapsasi swargam, jitva va bhokshase mahim. And if you were to not get killed, but win this battle, then you will enjoy great satisfaction, great wealth. You will become the ruler of this world. So either way, this is a win-win situation. If you fight, if you don't fight, it's a lose-lose. If you fight and you die, you will go to heaven. If you win, you will be able to enjoy all these things that you win. Obviously, there is an undercurrent here. This is a metaphor, and we cannot take this at face value. But just to complete this verse, Tasmad uttishta kaunteya yuddhaya krita nishchayaha. Tasmad, therefore, uttishta, get up. Tasmad uttishta kaunteya. Kaunteya is Arjuna. Yuddhaya krita nishchayaha. Therefore, Arjuna, get up and fight. Because if you don't fight, people will speak bad about you. You will feel hurtful. It will be very painful. On the other hand, if you, in this war, if you fight and if you get killed, you will attain heaven. And if you win this battle, then the benefits are obvious. So the aspirant here, when he is meditating. He is trying to understand some goal that he has set. He's pursuing that. And that goal that he has set is very lofty. And it's possible that he may not be able to get it. In fact, if you remember some of the previous couple of verses back, Sri Krishna says that Ascharyavat pashyati kaschideenam, Ascharyavat vadati tathaiva. It's a wonderful thing that you need to set your eyes on. And very few people have attained success in this. And of those that are successful, they have the successful people, they have communicated this thing, tried to others, and of those others, very few, 1 in a million, have been able to follow those footsteps. So that is the loftiness of the goal we are talking about here. So that is this battle. We are talking about his mental. It is more than just a battle. It's our entire life. This whole dedication of our mind towards the pursuit of this goal. In this pursuit, we are going to sacrifice a lot of things. And it turns out that after having done these sacrifices, we have not been able to reach this look. The goal is so lofty, it is possible. You want to become an astronaut and you figure out all the things that are necessary to become one, and you put in your effort, you work day and night and try to become one, and you are unable to become one. And in order to become an astronaut, you have sacrificed a lot of things. You didn't go to your favorite movie or whatever the things that you have sacrificed, and we might consider that as a loss. But the the peace, the maturity that the mind gains with every small victory that we have over the distractions, it does lend the mind to a more peaceful state than before. There is no doubt about that. And Sri Krishna is hinting that these gradual steps, even though you may not be able to achieve the ultimate goal in life, whatever you achieve is something that is going to be pretty significant. So that is what the swarga that is being referred to here is related to that. The understanding of the world that we are in, that is also a very big revelation when you begin to see in that light. We are going to see some of that later on in some of the later verses. Okay. Hato va prapsyasi swargam, jitva va bhokshase mahim. Of course, if you win, if you achieve that ultimate lofty goal, then there's nothing left to be said in that case. Therefore, tasmad uttishta kaunteya, you must fight, you must meditate, you must focus, you must use your mental abilities and skills to pursue this goal that you have set before yourself. Okay, let us move to the next verse. Sukha dukhe same krutva Labha labha jaya jayo tato yuddhaya yujjasva naivam papamavapsyasi. So this verse, we have encountered a similar verse earlier, and I was saying that this is kind of a catch-22 situation where the requirement for a particular state of mind also happens to be the result of the attainment of that state. So it's like a chicken and egg problem. What comes first? So this is somewhere sitting along those lines. Sukha dukkha samaya kritva. Sukha is happiness. Dukkha is unhappiness. Pain and pleasure. All these different pairs of opposite that are there. Pain and pleasure. Happiness and sorrow. For sukha dukkha samaya kritva. Sama is equality. To treat both of them equally, whether it is something you get or whether it is something you have lost, you have to look at it. You should not let it affect you. This is a very lofty idea, and even to understand what it says itself takes a it takes a pretty huge amount of study and a lot of experience just to understand what it is saying, and then to attain it is a totally different matter. You might study a lot about milk. It is white in color and it has got this chemical composition and this and that and all that, but it's to just know milk is a theoretical exercise, is a big thing, a big study. And to actually take this milk and to drink it and then taste it and know what it is like, it's a world apart. It's two different things. And however much you study, you are not going to know that. And even if you have not studied anything, if you taste that milk, you drink it, that experience is different. So to treat happiness and sadness equally is a virtually impossible task to imagine, to conceive. The the verse here seems to say that this is a requirement for one to achieve the goal that we have been talking about. Sukha dukkhe same krutva labha labha jaya jayo. Labha is to gain something. Well, in colloquial terms, you can put profit, but gain and loss, all the different pairs of opposite. Gain and loss, pleasure and pain, weal and woe, and so on and so on. Sukha dukkhe same krutva labha labho jaya jayo, victory and defeat. Tato yud. Sukha dukkha, to having reached that status where you look upon these pairs of opposite, or where these pairs of opposite do not affect you, then tato yuddhaya yujjasva naivam papam avapsyasi. Then this fight that you will engage in, and whatever happens in that fight, you are not going to incur any kind of sin. If you kill somebody, if you hurt somebody in this fight, after you have that equanimity of all these duality things that are there, these dual pairs of opposites, then having reached that state, if you engage in this fight, it is not going to affect you. You will not incur any sin. So if we take this metaphor and apply it to our mental status, so the mind, when the goal that the mind is trying to pursue is so lofty, so high, then the other distractions, they should not take you away from the effort that you are doing to reach the goal. So you, in this effort of yours, you want to become an astronaut, and you are you're playing some game, or you buy a lottery ticket, $5, $10, and don't you don't make any money out of it. You end up, somebody has given you as a gift uh, a lottery ticket for $5, and you lose, you don't get any money out of it. It hardly bothers you, and you win. You win $5. Even that doesn't bother you. That is the equanimity. These things, they don't affect you because your eyes are all set towards something different, something higher. So when this idea, this notion of the goal that we are going to achieve, the loftiness of that goal becomes something recognized in our mind, then other pursuits automatically don't affect us that much. It doesn't matter then whether you win something, you lose something. There is your favorite team is playing some game in when you are in school and they lost, it hurt you very badly. Or they won, you were very jubilant. It was great. For the whole next day, you were feeling great about it. But after you got into college and you matured, now that very same thing, it doesn't affect you. You are being affected by other things that you have come to know, have got a superior mental and from a peace perspective, a very mature status than what the things that you used to consider before. And this ladder of maturity, the more steps that you have got, the higher that you can see, the more the lower steps affect us. So that is the vein in which this verse needs to be understood. Sukha dukhe same kritva labha labho jaya jayo tato yuddhaya yujyasva naivam papam avapsyasi. I thought I was sharing my screen, but anyhow. Okay. We are almost out of time, but let me just. Esha te behita sankhye buddhir yoge tvimam shrunum buddhya yukto yaya partha karma bandham prahasyasi. All these different ways in which Sri Krishna is expounding the core truths of the Vedanta. This Sri Krishna is saying is Sankhya Yoga. Now, we don't want to get into the historical growth of this and some of the parallel schools of thought and knowledge that have grown alongside Sankhya, Advaita being one of them. So he's saying, Esha te bhita Sankhya, buddhir yoge tvimam shrunum. This shruno is to hear. Okay, so he's saying, whatever has been taught, whatever I have been telling you so far is something that is gleaned from Sankhya. Sankhya is a system of philosophy, a school of thought from the very ancient, obviously, before the Mahabharata, because how would otherwise Sri Krishna reference it? So in Sankhya, this idea of the consciousness in Brahman was evolved to a very supreme degree. And the Advaitists and the Sankhyas, they are very close. It's we don't want to get into trying to understand the differences. They are very close, and for all practical purposes, we can consider them as the same thing. So, Eshate Mahita, Eshate Bihita Sankhya. Well, we are almost over time. I'll just recite this once and maybe we can take a look at it next time. Esha te vihita sankhe buddhir yoge tvimam shrum buddhya yukto yaya parth karma bandham prahasyasi. Okay, thanks for listening and till next time, have a nice weekend. Talk to you later.